I love finding videos, movies, TV shows, clips to use in class, something that connects with usually government, economics, or US history in some sort of meaningful or memorable way. Plus, it's just fun just to uh, use these things in a way that seems a little bit uh, non conventional sometimes in order to illustrate a point. One of my favorite things to do in economics class that I've done for a few years is show this episode of Everybody Loves Raymond. And I use it to teach an economic concept called subjective valuation. There have been, through economic history, a couple different ways of trying to determine valuation. And during the 1800s, there was this view held by liberal, even Karl Marx, leftist economists, and then those more on the conservative, maybe on the right, maybe like an Adam Smith or others, that value of an economic good or service was determined by the labor that took to produce it, plus the input costs, basically coming down to how much work went into this good or service or product, plus the costs of the items used to do it. There are some problems with that, and it was during and soon after Karl Marx's writing of these things in the later 1800s that this was totally undone by what's called the marginal revolution, realizing that there was a marginal difference in cost, not a, as Marx proposed, a labor theory of value, or that even Smith and some other more conservative economists used as they looked at valuation of goods and services. And so it came to the result that I think is the best explanation, that value is economically subjective. There's subjective valuation. We have a disagreement of preferences, not an angry disagreement, but a disagreement of our preferences, and we value things at whatever level. And nobody's right or wrong in this sense. It's not moral, ethical. It's just whether we value things. And so some things like cigarettes are valued by some people if they like smoking, so they'll value it at a certain level. Other people don't like smoking or don't smoke cigarettes, so their valuation is zero. For them, the price is zero. It doesn't matter how much the input costs were and all these things. So this episode of Everybody Loves Raymond illustrates this very effectively, because it's called Hacky Do. It's basically going through Raymond's daughter, Allie, experiencing this back and forth because she basically wants to trade for a Pokemon card. They call it Hacky Do in this, but it's a card, trading card. Now, she wanted to trade for it, and in a humorous way, throughout the episode, the price of this card changes as she offers. First, in order to get the card that she wants, she offers a ton, or I think all of her cards, to get this one card. Now, her parents think that she's been ripped off. They are taking their valuation and placing it on her and the other child. The child, they discuss it. Raymond talks to the dad of the other kid, and they have them trade back. Then it turns out that this card to other people is worth some money. And they figure Allie knew what she was doing in the first place. She knows how valuable this card is. And so he goes to try to buy it back, can't. Then he goes to try to talk to his daughter, and this is the key part of the episode economically, I think. He goes to try to talk to his daughter about the valuation of the card and why she should or shouldn't have a certain valuation, why money shouldn't be spent on these things. And he said, I know that this card's worth a lot of money or whatever. And turns out she doesn't even know it's worth a lot of money. Why did she want the card in the first place? He asks, and she says, because I love it. And that is economic subjective valuation, because it means nothing to Raymond. It means nothing to maybe other people in the story, but she loves it it means something to others who value it. Later, he goes to try to buy it for her at a comic book store and has to pay a pretty hefty premium on this. But everybody has a different valuation, and that valuation plays into the price of the final good. It's not the input costs. No one cares how hard the work was. And the input costs, if you work those back down, the prices eventually have to go back to nature, and there is no natural cost for these goods. And so what this illustrates is where prices come from and how they change is from scarcity, what's available, but also demand, who wants it, and based on their own subjective valuation. Because in wanting those things, we think that they will be some sort of net benefit to us, whether or not other people disagree. And this is where decisions get made and prices come from. And it's also instructive because it tells us we can't have valuations for others for us. We can't necessarily predict or lay those things over on others. So there can't be any type of meaningful centralized control that can calculate these valuations in the heads of multiple people and then get them the right amount of goods and services.